The Great Hall of the Ascendant Dawn was filled with the most powerful beings in the galaxy. Warriors from a dozen species stood in their finest uniforms. Their medals caught the light of the artificial sun that floated above the ceremony hall. Flags of the Galactic Coalition hung from the ceiling, each one representing a species that had joined the alliance. Kira Valcine stood near the back of the hall with her fellow officers. She was 22 years old, tall and strong like all Vareni women. Her skin had the pale blue color of her mother's people, and her eyes were a deep violet that seemed to glow in dim light. She wore the uniform of a junior tactical officer, and she wore it with pride. Her mother, High Commander Sarah Valcine, stood at the front of the hall with the other senior leaders. Sarah was one of the most respected commanders in the entire coalition. She had led fleets into battle. She had won wars that others thought were lost. Kira wanted nothing more than to be like her one day. The ceremony was long and boring. One by one, warriors from different species walked forward to receive their medals. The Chronari received honors for their strength in ground combat. The Silith were praised for their speed and precision. The Vordani were thanked for their brilliant tactics in space battles. Each species had something special. The Chronari were massive, with armor-like skin that could stop bullets. The Silith could move faster than the eye could follow. The Vordani had 4 arms and could operate complex weapon systems that would confuse any other species. Then a human walked forward. Kira almost laughed out loud. The human was small compared to everyone else in the room. He had no claws, no armor skin, no extra limbs. He was just a plain, ordinary-looking man with short brown hair and a face full of scars. He walked slowly, and Kira noticed that he had a slight limp in his left leg. She leaned toward her friend, a Valorani officer named Tessa. "Look at that," Kira whispered. They actually let a human into the ceremony. Tessa covered her mouth to hide her smile. "I heard they give them medals just for showing up." "Probably," Kira said. "What could a human possibly do that deserves honor? They break so easily. I heard their bones are hollow like bird bones." "That is not true," another officer said. "But they are very fragile. One good hit, and they fall apart." Kira watched the human walk toward the stage. His name was announced as Jack Cole, and she thought it was a boring name for a boring creature. Humans had only been part of the galactic community for about 80 years. They were the youngest species in the coalition, and everyone knew they were the weakest. Kira had heard all the jokes about humans. They called them endurance pests because the only thing humans seemed good at was refusing to die. They would keep going long after their bodies should have stopped. It was not impressive to Kira. It was just stupid. "What medal do you think he is getting?" Tessa asked. "Best effort?" Kira snorted. "Most improved. He'd probably learn how to tie his boots without help." The officers around her laughed quietly. They all shared the same view. Humans were a joke. They were small, weak, and emotional. They cried when they were sad. They cried when they were happy. They even cried at fictional stories. What kind of warrior cried at made-up tales? The announcer spoke in a loud, clear voice. "Jack Cole, Sergeant of the Human Volunteer Corps, is hereby awarded the Crimson Star Mark for extraordinary valor in combat." Kira's eyebrows rose. The Crimson Star Mark was the highest honor in the entire coalition. It was given only to warriors who had done something truly impossible. She had seen Chronari generals receive it. She had seen Vordani admirals receive it. But a human? "This must be a mistake," she said, louder than she meant to. Several delegates from other species turned to look at her. Kira did not care. She was the daughter of High Commander Sarah Valcine. She had every right to speak her mind. "Humans probably cry during combat," she said. "He probably got the medal for being brave enough to leave his ship." A few of the delegates looked uncomfortable. Others smirked. The prejudice against humans was common throughout the galaxy. Kira was only saying what everyone thought. On the stage, Jack Cole accepted his medal. His face showed no emotion. He did not smile. He did not look proud. He simply took the medal, nodded once, and turned to return to his seat. For a brief moment, his eyes met Kira's. She expected to see anger or hurt. She expected him to react to her words somehow. But his eyes were calm and empty, like the surface of a frozen lake. He looked at her for just 1 second, then looked away. He returned to his seat without a word. Kira felt a strange feeling in her chest. It was not guilt. She had nothing to feel guilty about. She had only spoken the truth. Humans were weak. Everyone knew this. She looked toward the front of the hall and saw her mother watching her. Syrah's face was like stone. She showed no anger, no disappointment. She showed nothing at all. Kira smiled and waved at her mother. Syrah did not wave back. The ceremony continued for another hour. More medals were given. More speeches were made. Kira stopped paying attention. She was thinking about dinner and about the party that would follow the ceremony. When the ceremony finally ended, the crowd began to move toward the dining hall. Kira started to follow her friends, but a hand touched her shoulder. She turned and saw one of her mother's aides. "The High Commander wishes to speak with you," the aide said. "In private?" Kira frowned. "Now?" "But the party is starting." "Now," the aide repeated. Kira sighed and followed the aide through the crowd. She assumed her mother wanted to congratulate her on something, or perhaps discuss her next assignment. She had no idea that her entire world was about to change. She had no idea that the human she had mocked was the man who had given her life. She walked toward the observation deck where her mother waited, still thinking about the party she was missing. She was annoyed and impatient. She did not know that in a few minutes, she would learn a truth that would break her heart and rebuild it into something new. The doors to the observation deck opened, and Kira stepped inside. Her mother stood alone by the window, looking out at the stars. The light of distant suns cast shadows across her face. "Close the door," Syrah said. Her voice was quiet but firm. Kira did as she was told. The doors slid shut behind her, and suddenly the noise of the celebration disappeared. They were alone in the silence of space. "Mother," Kira said, "what is this about?" "The party has already started." Syrah did not turn around. She kept her eyes on the stars, and when she spoke, her voice was heavy with years of hidden pain. "Sit down, Kira. We need to talk about the human you mocked today." Kira did not sit down. She stood near the door with her arms crossed, watching her mother with confusion. The observation deck was dark, except for the starlight that came through the massive windows. The ascendant dawn floated through space like a great silver whale, and the galaxy spread out before them like a blanket of diamonds. "I do not understand," Kira said. "Why do you want to talk about that human? He is nobody. He's just another soldier." Syrah finally turned to face her daughter. Her violet eyes were filled with something Kira had never seen before. It looked like sadness, but it was deeper than that. It was the kind of sadness that had lived in someone's heart for many years. "Do you know why that human received a crimson star mark?" Syrah asked. Kira shrugged. "I assume the coalition felt sorry for him. Humans are always trying to prove themselves. They want so badly to be seen as equals, even though they clearly are not." "That is what you believe?" "That is what everyone believes, Mother. Humans are fragile. They have no natural weapons. They cannot see in the dark like we can. They cannot breathe in thin atmosphere like we can. They break easily and heal slowly. The only thing they are good at is being stubborn." Syrah walked closer to her daughter. Her boots made soft sounds on the metal floor. "Stubborn," she repeated. "Yes, that is one word for it. What other word would you use?" Unbreakable. Kira laughed. Unbreakable? Mother, I have seen humans in training exercises. They collapse from exhaustion. They cry from pain. They are the opposite of unbreakable. Sira stopped walking. She was now only a few feet from her daughter. The starlight made her face look older than usual, and Kira noticed for the first time that her mother had small lines around her eyes. Lines from years of worry. "Let me tell you a story," Sira said. "It happened 23 years ago, during the siege of Tethran 9. Kira had heard of Tethran 9. It was one of the worst battles in Coalition history. An entire fleet had been trapped by enemy forces. Thousands had died. The survivors were called heroes, but they rarely spoke about what happened. I was there," Sira continued. "I was not a high commander then. I was just a young officer, barely older than you are now. Our fleet was surrounded. Our ships were burning. We had no way to escape, and we all knew we were going to die. But you survived," Kira said. "Obviously, I survived because of him." Kira blinked. "Because of who?" "The human. Jack Cole." The name hung in the air between them. Kira felt a cold feeling in her stomach, but she did not understand why. She told herself it was just surprise. Nothing more. "There was a small unit of human volunteers embedded with our forces," Sira explained. "Everyone thought they were useless. We gave them the easy jobs because we did not trust them with real combat. We made jokes about them behind their backs. Just like you did today." Kira shifted uncomfortably. "Mother, I was trapped behind enemy lines," Sira continued, as if Kira had not spoken. "My shuttle was shot down. I was badly wounded. My leg was broken, and I had a piece of metal in my side. I could not walk. I could not fight. I was lying in the ruins of a collapsed bunker, waiting to die." Kira's throat felt tight. She had never heard this story. Her mother had never spoken about Tethran 9. "Then he found me. Jack Cole, a human sergeant with no rank, no importance, no reason to risk his life for a Vorani officer he had never met. What did he do?" Sira's eyes grew distant, as if she was seeing the past instead of the present. "He picked me up and carried me. For 18 hours, he carried me through toxic atmosphere. The air on that planet was poison to humans. Every breath he took was destroying his lungs. His skin was burning from the chemicals. He should have put me down and saved himself. Any logical creature would have done that. But he did not," Kira whispered. "No, he did not. He kept walking. When enemy soldiers found us, he fought them off with nothing but a knife. When his knife broke, he used his fists. When his fists were broken, he used rocks. I watched him kill 3 enemies with a rock while his lungs were filling with fluid." Kira felt sick. She thought about the things she had said. She thought about the jokes she had made. That fragile, scarred human had done all of this? The medic said he should have died at least 12 times during those 18 hours, Sira said. They could not understand how he kept going. They ran tests on him. They studied his biology. And you know what they found? What? Nothing special. He had no genetic modifications. He had no special training. He was just a normal human with a body that was falling apart. But he refused to stop. The medics asked him how he did it, and he said something I will never forget. What did he say? Sira's voice broke slightly. He said, I promised myself I would save her. And humans keep their promises. The observation deck fell silent. Kira could hear her own heartbeat in her ears. She could feel something changing inside her, some wall cracking, but she did not want to accept it. He saved 47 Velreni soldiers that day, Sira said. He went back into the toxic zones again and again. By the end, he could not see because his eyes were damaged. He could not speak because his throat was burned. But he kept going. He saved me. He saved dozens of others. And the Coalition gave him the Crimson Star Mark because there was no higher honor to give. Kira was shaking now. Why are you telling me this? Why does this matter? Sira reached out and took her daughter's hands. Her grip was gentle but firm. Her violet eyes met Kira's, and in them, Kira saw tears. Because that man is your father. The words hit Kira like a physical blow. She stumbled backward, pulling her hands away from her mother. No, she said. That is not possible. My father was a Volrani commander. He died before I was born. You told me. I told you what I had to tell you, Sira said. The truth was too dangerous. A Volrani High Commander cannot bond with a human. The Coalition species hierarchy would not allow it. If anyone knew, my career would have been destroyed. You would have been treated as less than nothing. Kira's legs felt weak. She sat down on the cold floor, unable to stand anymore. Her entire life had been built on a lie. Everything she believed about herself was wrong. I am half human, she said. The words tasted strange in her mouth. Yes, the species I have mocked my entire life. The species I called weak and pathetic. They are my people too. Sira knelt down beside her daughter. I am sorry I kept this from you. I thought I was protecting you. But today, when I saw you mock him, when I saw you insult the man who gave me life and gave you existence, I knew I could not stay silent anymore. Kira looked up at her mother. Tears were running down her blue cheeks. He was there. He was standing right there, and I said those terrible things. He heard me. He looked at me, yes, and he said nothing. He did not defend himself. He just walked away. Sira nodded slowly. That is what he has been doing for 23 years. Walking away, staying silent, watching you from a distance and loving you without ever being able to hold you. He gave you up so that you could have a good life. He sacrificed everything for you, and he never asked for anything in return. Kira covered her face with her hands. The shame was overwhelming. She had mocked her own father. She had called him weak and worthless. And all this time, he had been watching her grow up, loving her in silence, never once reaching out because he knew it would hurt her. I have to talk to him, Kira said through her tears. I have to apologize. I have to. Not yet, Sira said gently. First, you need to hear the rest of the story. You need to understand who he really is and what he sacrificed. Then, when you are ready, you can face him. Kira wiped her eyes. Her violet irises, which she had always thought came from her Volrani blood, now seemed different. She remembered that her mother's eyes were pure violet, almost purple. But Kira's eyes had always been a bit different. A bit lighter. A bit more blue. Human eyes were blue. She had been carrying her father with her all along. She just had not known it. Tell me everything, Kira said. I need to know everything. Sira sat down beside her daughter on the cold floor. The stars watched them through the window, ancient and patient. And Sira began to tell the story of a love that had survived war, politics, and 23 years of silence. The stars outside the observation deck window seemed to blur as Kira listened to her mother speak. She had stopped crying, but her chest still felt hollow and strange. Everything she had believed about herself was falling apart like a ship breaking up in the atmosphere. Sira sat beside her on the cold floor, her voice soft and full of memory. She spoke about Tethran 9 as if she was walking through the ruins again, as if she could still smell the burning metal and the toxic air. The battle had been going on for 3 days when my shuttle was hit, Sira said. We were trying to evacuate wounded soldiers from the surface. The enemy had set up anti-air weapons everywhere. We knew it was dangerous, but we could not leave our people to die. You went anyway, Kira said. Of course. That is what commanders do. But I made a mistake. I flew too low, trying to avoid their sensors. They caught us with a direct hit. The shuttle broke apart in the air. Most of my crew died instantly. I survived only because I was thrown clear of the explosion. Kira tried to imagine her mother, young and wounded, falling from a burning shuttle. It was hard to picture. Sarah Valcine was always so strong, so controlled. The idea of her being helpless seemed impossible. I landed in the ruins of an old factory, Sarah continued. My leg was broken in 2 places. There was a piece of the shuttle stuck in my side, just below my ribs. If I tried to pull it out, I would bleed to death. If I left it in, I would slowly poison from the infection. I had no good choices. And the air was toxic? To humans, yes. To Varani, it was just uncomfortable. It made breathing difficult, but it would not kill us. The humans, though, they needed special masks to survive. And even with the masks, they could only stay on the surface for a few hours before their lungs started to fail. Sarah paused and looked at her hands. They were strong hands, the hands of a warrior. But in this moment, they looked fragile. I lay in that ruined factory for 6 hours, waiting to die or be captured. I could hear enemy soldiers moving through the city. They were searching for survivors. I knew that if they found me, they would either kill me or use me as a bargaining tool. Neither option was acceptable, but Jack found you first. Sarah smiled, but it was a sad smile. He found me first. He was part of a small human unit that had been sent to search for survivors. Everyone else had given up. The Volrani command had declared the area lost. But the humans, they refused to accept it. Why? Because that is what humans do. They look at a hopeless situation, and instead of accepting it, they get angry. They decide that they will change reality through pure stubbornness. It is completely irrational, and it works more often than it should. Kira thought about the human stories she had heard over the years. Stories about humans who walked for days without food. Stories about humans who survived injuries that should have killed them. She had always dismissed these stories as exaggeration. Now she was not so sure. Jack came into that ruined factory alone, Sarah said. His unit had been scattered by an enemy attack. His mask was cracked, which meant he was breathing the toxic air. He had maybe 4 hours before his lungs would collapse completely. And instead of using those hours to save himself, he used them to save me. He could have left you. He should have left me. I was a Varani officer. My people had treated the humans like jokes. We gave them the worst assignments. We mocked them in meetings. We did not even bother to learn their names. And yet, when Jack found me, he did not hesitate. He looked at me with those strange blue eyes, and he said, "I'm going to get you out of here." Sarah's voice cracked slightly. She took a deep breath and continued. I told him to leave. I told him I was too heavy to carry, that he would kill himself trying to save me. He just smiled and said, "Humans are stupid like that." Then he picked me up and started walking. 18 hours, Kira said, remembering what her mother had told her earlier. 18 hours. Across broken terrain. Through enemy patrols. In air that was slowly dissolving his lungs from the inside. He never put me down. He never complained. When I begged him to rest, he said he would rest when I was safe. How did he fight? You said he killed enemies while carrying you. Sarah closed her eyes. The memory was painful, but she forced herself to share it. The first time we were attacked, he set me down behind some rubble and told me to stay quiet. 3 enemy soldiers came around the corner. They were not expecting resistance. Jack moved faster than I thought possible for a human. He killed the first one with his knife before the soldier even raised his weapon. The second one managed to fire, but the shot went wide. Jack broke his neck with his bare hands. The third one tried to run. Jack threw his knife and hit him in the back of the head. Kira felt a chill run down her spine. This was not the weak, fragile human she had imagined. This was something else entirely. We were attacked 5 more times during those 18 hours, Sarah said. Each time, Jack fought. Each time, he won. By the end, his knife was broken. His hands were shattered. He had been shot twice and stabbed once. But he kept walking. He kept carrying me. How is that possible? Sarah opened her eyes and looked at her daughter. The Varnia taught that pain is a warning. When we feel pain, we stop. We protect ourselves. It is logical. It is survival. But humans see pain differently. They see it as information. And humans are very good at ignoring information they do not like. That sounds insane. It is insane. That is what makes them so dangerous. A Vareni warrior will fight until the pain becomes too much, and then he will retreat. A human warrior will fight until his body physically stops working. There is no retreat. There is no surrender. There is only forward. Kira was silent for a long moment. She was trying to reorganize everything she knew about humans, and it was not easy. She had spent her entire life believing they were inferior. Now she was learning that they were something else entirely. Not superior. Not inferior. Just different. Terrifyingly, beautifully different. What happened when you reached safety? Kira asked. Jack collapsed the moment he put me down. The medics thought he was dead. His heart had stopped twice during the journey, but he had somehow kept going. They had to rebuild his lungs. They had to repair his hands. He spent 3 months in a healing tank, and even after that, he was never the same. His body carries the scars of that day. His limp, his damaged voice, his pale skin, all of it comes from saving me, and you fell in love with him. Sarah nodded slowly. I did not mean to. I did not want to. But how could I not? He had given me everything. He had proven that love is not about words or promises. It is about action. It is about sacrifice. He showed me what true strength looks like, and it had nothing to do with muscles or weapons. What happened next? We had 6 months together before the politics began. I became pregnant with you. When the Coalition Council found out, they were furious. They told me that a bond with a human would destroy my career. They said it would bring shame to my family and to the entire Velorani species. They gave me a choice, give up Jack or give up everything else. Kira's hands tightened into fists. That is not a choice. That is a threat. Yes, it was. And I was young and afraid and ambitious. I chose my career. I chose my species. I chose everything except the man who had saved my life. Did Jack fight it? Sarah shook her head. He could have. He could have gone public, made a scandal, forced the council to acknowledge him. But he knew that would hurt you. He knew that if the galaxy knew you were half human, you would be treated as less than nothing. So he agreed to disappear. He agreed to never contact you, never claim you, never be your father in any public way. For 23 years. For 23 years. He has watched you from a distance. He has followed your career. He has celebrated every success and worried about every failure. He has loved you in the only way he was allowed to love you, in silence and in shadow. Kira stood up suddenly. Her body was shaking with emotion. Anger, shame, grief, and something else. Something that felt like a fire burning in her chest. I need to see him, she said. Right now. I need to tell him. Sarah stood up and put her hands on her daughter's shoulders. Not yet. You are too emotional. You need time to process all of this. And there is something else you should know. What? Sarah's face became serious. Jack is dying. The damage from Tethran 9, it never fully healed. His body is slowly failing. The medics say he has maybe 2 or 3 more years. He came to this ceremony because he wanted to see you one more time. He did not expect you to ever know who he was. He just wanted to look at his daughter one last time before the end. Kira felt her heart break into 1,000 pieces. Her father, the father she had never known, the father she had mocked and insulted, was dying. And he had come all this way just to see her face. She covered her mouth with her hand to stop the sob that was rising in her throat. The fire in her chest was now burning brighter than ever. It was not just anger. It was not just shame. It was love. The love of a daughter for a father she was only beginning to understand. "I have wasted so much time," she whispered. "I have wasted so many years." Sierra pulled her daughter into a tight embrace. "Then do not waste any more. When you are ready, go to him. Tell him who you are. And give him the one thing he has wanted for 23 years. What is that?" "His daughter's love." Kira held her mother tightly and cried. Outside, 3 days passed after Kira learned the truth. 3 days of confusion, shame, and silence. She avoided the main corridors of the Ascendant Dawn. She took her meals in her quarters. She could not face her fellow officers, knowing that she had laughed at her own father in front of them. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw Jack Cole's face. That brief moment when their eyes had met across the ceremony hall. He had known who she was. He had heard her insults. And he had said nothing. He had just walked away with the dignity that she now realized was his greatest strength. Kira also avoided Jack. She knew she needed to talk to him. But every time she tried to walk toward his quarters, her legs would not move. What could she possibly say? How could she apologize for 23 years of prejudice? How could she make up for the jokes she had told, the comments she had made, the casual cruelty she had shown toward his entire species? On the 4th day, she forced herself to leave her quarters. She had decided to find Jack and tell him everything. She would apologize. She would beg for his forgiveness. She would try to build some kind of relationship before his illness took him away forever. She was walking through the diplomatic corridor when the attack began. The first explosion knocked her off her feet. The lights in the corridor flickered and died, replaced by the red glow of emergency systems. Alarms screamed through the ship as the Ascendant Dawn shuddered under a second impact. Kira pulled herself up and tried to understand what was happening. Through a nearby window, she could see smaller ships surrounding the Ascendant Dawn. They bore no coalition markings. Their hulls were black and covered with weapons. Raiders, or worse, political extremists who wanted to destroy the fragile peace between species. A Pitnan voice crackled over the ship's communication system. It was harsh and filled with static. "This is Commander Vex of the Purity Movement. We have taken control of your council chamber. We are holding your diplomats hostage. If anyone attempts a rescue, we will begin killing them, one species at a time." Kira's blood went cold. The Purity Movement was a group of extremists who believed that the different species of the galaxy should never have united. They especially hated humans, calling them a contamination on the pure bloodlines of the older species. She ran toward the council chamber. She did not know what she would do when she got there, but she could not stand by while innocent people were being held hostage. She was a Velrani warrior. She was the daughter of High Commander Sira Valsing, and now, she realized with a strange sense of pride, she was also half-human. She was the daughter of a man who never gave up. She reached the corridor leading to the council chamber and found chaos. Velrani security officers were gathered behind makeshift barriers, their faces tight with frustration. Kira recognized the senior officer, a tall man named Captain Lorne. "What is the situation?" Kira demanded. Captain Lorne looked at her with grim eyes. "They have neural disruptors, weapons designed to overload our enhanced nervous systems. Every time we try to approach, our soldiers collapse. The disruptors cause too much pain for our bodies to handle. There must be something we can do. We have tried 3 assaults. We have lost 15 officers. They are just lying in the corridor, unable to move. The pain is too intense. Kira looked past the barriers. She could see the fallen Velrani officers in the distance, writhing on the floor as the neural disruptors kept them in constant agony. The weapons were designed specifically to target species with enhanced nervous systems. The more advanced the biology, the more intense the pain. Humans had simple nervous systems, primitive compared to the Velrani or Silith. The disruptors would hurt them, but perhaps not enough to stop them. Where are the human soldiers? Kira asked suddenly. Captain Lorne looked confused. Humans? Why would we send humans? They are the weakest fighters on the ship. Get me a human. Get me Sergeant Jack Cole. The captain stared at her as if she had lost her mind. The human from the ceremony? He is old and injured. He would be useless in a combat situation. Get him, now. That is an order. Captain Lorne hesitated, but something in Kira's eyes made him obey. He spoke into his communicator, requesting Jack Cole's presence at the security barrier. 5 minutes later, Jack arrived. He looked even smaller than Kira remembered. His brown hair was streaked with gray. His scarred face was calm, almost peaceful. He wore no armor, carried no weapons. He looked like a man who had come to watch, not to fight, but his blue eyes were sharp and focused. They swept across the corridor, taking in every detail. When his gaze met Kira's, something flickered across his face. Recognition, uncertainty, and perhaps, just for a moment, hope. "You called for me," Jack said. His voice was rough, damaged by years of breathing toxic air. Kira stepped forward. "Those hostages need to be rescued. Our soldiers cannot get through the neural disruptors. The pain is too intense for our nervous systems. And you think a human can do better? I know you can. I know what you did at Tethran 9. I know what you are capable of." Jack studied her face. His expression gave nothing away. "You mocked me at the ceremony. You said humans cry during combat." The words hit Kira like a blade. She deserved them. "I was wrong," she said quietly. "I was wrong about everything." Jack was silent for a long moment. Then he nodded once. "Give me a weapon." Captain Lorne handed him a standard combat pistol. It looked almost too big for Jack's damaged hands, but he took it without hesitation and started walking toward the council chamber. "Wait," Kira said. "The disruptors will hurt," Jack finished. "Pain is just information. I am very good at ignoring information I do not like." He walked into the corridor. The neural disruptors hit him immediately. Kira saw his body jerk as the waves of pain crashed into his nervous system. He stumbled. Blood began to drip from his nose. His hands started to shake, but he kept walking. The Purity Movement soldiers saw him coming and increased the power on their disruptors. Jack's legs buckled. He fell to one knee. His whole body was trembling. Any Velrani would have been screaming in agony by now. Any Velrani would have collapsed and begged for death. Jack got back up and kept walking. What is he doing? Captain Lorne whispered, his voice filled with disbelief. He should be unconscious by now. Kira watched her father move through the corridor like a man walking through fire. Each step was agony. Each breath was pain. But he refused to stop. He refused to fall. The enemy commander, Vex, appeared at the far end of the corridor. He was a tall, thin alien with pale skin and dark eyes. He stared at the approaching human with a mixture of confusion and fear. Increase the power. Vex shouted to his soldiers. Maximum setting. The disruptors screamed. Jack's body convulsed. He vomited blood onto the floor. His eyes rolled back in his head, but his legs kept moving. One step, Then another. Then another. "Why won't you fall?" Vex screamed. His voice was high with panic. He had never seen anything like this. No species should be able to withstand this level of pain. It was impossible. Jack raised his head. Blood was running down his face. His body was broken and failing. But he smiled through his bloody teeth. "Humans don't do that," he said. He raised his pistol and fired. The first shot hit Vex in the chest. The second hit the soldier operating the disruptor. The third and fourth took down 2 more enemies. The remaining soldiers fled. They ran like prey animals, abandoning their weapons and their mission. They had never faced anything like this. They had never seen a creature that simply refused to stop. Jack reached the hostages and freed them. He did not speak. He did not celebrate. He simply cut their bonds and pointed them toward the exit. Then his legs finally gave out. He collapsed to the floor, his body shutting down. The damage was too severe. He had pushed himself beyond any reasonable limit, and now his system was failing. Kira was the first to reach him. She knelt beside her father and lifted his head gently. Her eyes looked up at her with something like peace. "The hostages," he whispered. "Are they safe?" "They are safe. You saved them all." Jack smiled weakly. "Good. That is good." "Hold on," Kira said. Tears were streaming down her face. "The medics are coming. Just hold on." Jack reached up with a trembling, broken hand and touched her cheek. "You have your mother's face," he said softly. "But your eyes are mine." Kira grabbed his hand and held it tightly. I know who you are. I know everything. And I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry for what I said. I'm so sorry for everything." Jack shook his head weakly. "Do not be sorry. You did not know. And I am just happy to finally touch you. After all these years, I finally got to touch my daughter." His eyes began to close. "No," Kira said desperately. "Stay with me. Please stay with me. I just found you. I cannot lose you now." The medics arrived and began working on Jack's broken body. They shouted medical terms and attached machines. Kira was pushed aside, but she did not go far. She stood and watched as they fought to save the man who had given her life, the man who had walked through fire, the man who refused to fall, her father. The medics worked for what felt like hours. Finally, one of them looked up and met Kira's eyes. "He is stable," the medic said, "but barely. We need to get him to the medical bay immediately." They carried Jack away on a floating stretcher. Kira followed close behind, her hand never leaving her father's arm. She did not know if he would survive. She did not know if she would ever get to talk to him again. The medical bay of the Ascendant Dawn was quiet, except for the soft beeping of machines. Jack Cole lay on a white bed, his body connected to tubes and monitors. His skin was pale, almost gray. His breathing was shallow and slow. But he was alive. Kira had not left his side in 2 days. She sat in a hard chair next to his bed, watching the rise and fall of his chest. She had refused food. She had refused sleep. She would not leave until he opened his eyes. The medics said he was healing. They said humans had a strange ability to recover from injuries that would kill other species. Something about their cells regenerating faster than expected. Something about their bodies refusing to give up even when all logic said they should. Kira was beginning to understand that stubbornness was not a weakness. It was the greatest strength a species could have. Her mother, Sira, came to visit often. She would sit with Kira and hold her hand. Sometimes they talked about the past. Sometimes they sat in silence. The years of secrets had left wounds between them, but those wounds were slowly starting to heal. On the third day, Jack opened his eyes. Kira was dozing in her chair when she heard him stir. She snapped awake immediately and leaned forward. His blue eyes were unfocused at first, but slowly they cleared. He turned his head and saw her sitting beside him. "Kira," he whispered. His voice was weak and rough. "You stayed." "Of course I stayed," she said. Her throat was tight with emotion. "Where else would I be?" Jack tried to smile, but the effort seemed to exhaust him. "I thought, maybe I dreamed it. You holding my hand, talking to me. I thought maybe it was just a dying man's wish. It was real. All of it was real." They looked at each other for a long moment. Father and daughter, seeing each other truly for the first time. 23 years of separation hung between them like a curtain, but it was a curtain that was finally beginning to lift. "I have so many questions," Kira said softly. "I have answers," Jack replied. "At least, I think I do." "What do you want to know?" Kira thought about all the things she had wondered over the past few days. All the pieces of her life that suddenly made sense. All the mysteries that had finally been solved. "Did you ever want to contact me?" she asked. "During all those years, did you ever think about reaching out?" Jack's eyes grew sad. "Every single day. I had a message written that I planned to send you on your 18th birthday. I was going to tell you everything. I was going to explain why I stayed away and beg for your forgiveness. Why didn't you send it?" "Because I was afraid. Afraid that you would hate me. Afraid that knowing the truth would hurt you more than not knowing. And afraid that if I entered your life, I would only bring you trouble." Kira reached out and took his damaged hand in hers. "You were wrong. The only thing that hurt was not knowing. The only trouble was the lies." Jack squeezed her hand weakly. "I see that now. I spent 23 years trying to protect you from the truth. And all I did was steal 23 years that we could have had together." Tears rolled down Kira's cheeks. "We still have time. The medics say you are healing. Slowly, but you are healing. The medics also said I should have died a dozen times by now," Jack said with a slight smile. "Humans are stubborn. We do not follow medical expectations very well." Kira laughed through her tears. It was a strange sound, half joy, half grief. "I am half human. Does that mean I am half stubborn too?" "I have watched you for 23 years, Jack said. "Trust me, you are fully stubborn. You get that from both sides." They sat together in comfortable silence for a while. The machines beeped. The ship hummed around them. Outside the medical bay window, stars drifted past like gentle snowflakes. "I am sorry for what I said at the ceremony," Kira said finally. "I am sorry for all the things I said about humans. I did not understand. I did not know." Jack shook his head slowly. "You repeated what everyone taught you. The galaxy has never respected humans. We are too young, too weak, too emotional. We cry at sad stories. We love too deeply. We hold grudges too long. We are everything a proper species should not be. And yet you are the only one who could walk through those disruptors," Kira said. "You are the only one who could save those hostages. Because those same traits that make us weak also make us unstoppable. Our love becomes obsession. Our fear becomes rage. Our pain becomes fuel. When a human decides that something matters, they will burn the universe down to protect it." Kira thought about her own life. The way she had pushed herself through training. The way she had refused to quit even when her body screamed for rest. The way she felt emotions more deeply than her full-blooded Velrani peers. She had always thought these were flaws. Now she realized they were gifts. What happens now? She asked. Jack closed his eyes for a moment. When he opened them again, they were filled with a quiet hope that he had kept hidden for more than 2 decades. "I have spent 23 years in the shadows," he said, "watching you from a distance, loving you in silence. If you will have me, I would like to spend whatever time I have left as your father. Not in secret, not in shame, but openly, proudly, the way it should have been from the beginning. Kira felt her heart swell. I would like that too. The door to the medical bay opened and Sira walked in. She stopped when she saw them holding hands, and for a moment, her composed face cracked. Tears appeared in her violet eyes. Room for one more? She asked softly. Jack reached out his other hand toward her. Always. Sira crossed the room and took his hand. For the first time in 23 years, the three of them were together. Not as commander and soldier, not as mother and secret, but as a family. Kira looked at her parents, her Velrani mother with her strength and discipline, her human father with his scars and unbreakable will, and she felt something new growing inside her. Not shame at her mixed blood, not confusion about her identity. Pride. She was the daughter of two warriors, two species, two worlds. And that made her stronger than either alone. In the weeks that followed, Kira returned to her duties. But she was different now. When other officers made jokes about humans, she did not laugh. When diplomats dismissed human contributions, she spoke up. She told them about the siege of Tethran 9. She told them about a human sergeant who carried wounded soldiers through poison air until his body fell apart. She told them about a man who walked through neural disruptors that should have stopped him cold. Some listened, some did not. But Kira no longer cared what others thought. Her father's health improved slowly. The medics were amazed at his recovery. They ran tests and studied his cells. They tried to understand how a human body could rebuild itself from such severe damage. Jack just smiled and said that humans were too stubborn to die properly. On the day Jack was released from the medical bay, there was a small ceremony. Commander Sira Valcine stood before the crew and made an announcement that shocked everyone. 23 years ago, I made a mistake, she said. I hid a truth that should have been celebrated. I denied a man his right to be a father. I denied my daughter her right to know her heritage. Today, I correct that mistake. She turned to Jack, who stood beside her in a clean uniform. His scars were visible. His limp was obvious. But he stood straight and proud. This is Sergeant Jack Cole, Sira continued. Hero of Tethran 9, holder of the Crimson Star Mark, and the father of my daughter, Kira Valcine. From this day forward, he is to be treated with the respect and honor he has always deserved. The crew was silent for a moment. Then, slowly, they began to applaud. Not everyone. Some still held their old prejudices, but enough. Enough to make Jack's eyes grow wet with tears he did not try to hide, because humans cried. They cried when they were sad. They cried when they were happy. They cried when 23 years of loneliness finally came to an end. Kira stood beside her father and took his hand. She was not ashamed. She was not embarrassed. She was proud. After the ceremony, a young officer approached Kira. He was Velreni, tall and strong, and he looked confused. You are really half human? He asked. I am, Kira said. But humans are weak. Everyone knows that. Kira smiled. It was the same smile her father had worn when he walked through the neural disruptors. Calm, confident, completely unafraid. Humans are many things, she said. They are small. They are fragile. They cry at stories and love too deeply. But they are not weak. They are the most stubborn, determined, impossible creatures in the galaxy. And when they decide that something matters, nothing in the universe can stop them. The young officer looked at her with new respect. Perhaps he was beginning to understand. Kira walked away and found her father waiting for her by the observation window. The stars stretched out before them, endless and beautiful. Jack put his arm around his daughter's shoulders, and she leaned into him. What are you thinking about? she asked. Jack smiled. I am thinking about how lucky I am. I thought I would die without ever holding you. And now here I am, standing beside you, watching the stars. We have time now, Kira said. Not as much as we should have had, but some. We can make up for the lost years. We can try, Jack agreed. That is all anyone can do. Try, fight, refuse to give up. And love as hard as we can for as long as we have. Kira nodded. That sounded like something a human would say. And now she knew that part of her was human too. She looked out at the stars and thought about all the adventures waiting for them. All the battles to be fought. All the wrong